Alright, so just days ahead of the Eagles matchup with the Buccaneers, it seems like the Birds' pass rush could be in for a huge game, as Jalen Carter and the defensive line seem ready to take advantage of what has been the Bucs' biggest weakness this season. Speaking of which, Carter actually just kind of called out Bucs quarterback Baker Mayfield for one of his weaknesses that could play right into the Eagles' hands in this game. Meanwhile, Eagles legend Brandon Graham just gave us a shocking update on his retirement status, as after he previously had said that this year would be his final season, it seems like he may have changed his mind. Plus, the Eagles are dealing with some big injuries ahead of their matchup with the Bucs, including a new one to one of their key defensive linemen. But the good thing is that a few key Eagles return to practice on Friday ahead of the Bucs game, including AJ Brown, and it also seems like a lot of the Birds' backups are ready to step up in this game. So we're going to talk about that and all the other latest Eagles news starting right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Philly Fan 21 channel. If you're new, I'm Evan and I cover all things Philadelphia Eagles, and we are getting extremely close to the Eagles playoff rematch with the Bucs, as the Week 4 game down in Florida is just 2 days away. But very interestingly, there have actually been some concerns regarding the weather conditions down in Tampa ahead of the matchup, as if you're not aware, Florida recently just got hit with a hurricane called Hurricane Helene, and on Thursday, Tampa Bay was under a tropical storm warning and was experiencing wind gusts of around 55 miles per hour. So this brought up the question of whether the game could potentially be postponed or rescheduled for a different day, but it seems like in all likelihood, that's not going to happen, as the worst part of the storm was projected to hit on Thursday, so by kickoff time on Sunday, things should be good to go. Now, there is a chance of lingering rain and potential thunderstorms throughout the weekend, so the Eagles definitely need to be prepared for that. But again, it doesn't seem like the hurricane is going to cause any serious issues, and the game will go on as scheduled. Now, the Eagles have of course been out on the practice field as they continue to prepare for this big NFC matchup, but they've been missing a few key guys while others have been limited to practice due to injuries. Now, the good news is that 3 guys who have dealt with injuries recently in Mekhi Becton, Landon Dickerson, and Darius Slay were all full participants on Thursday, so it's more than likely that they'll be good to go for Sunday's game. But a not so positive development from Thursday is that defensive tackle Milton Williams popped up on the injury report with a groin injury, and he was limited on Thursday. And this obviously isn't very good, as Milt is a crucial player for the Eagles defense and someone who Vic Fangio has played a lot so far through 3 games. I mean, just last game versus the Saints, he played in 66% of the Eagles defensive snaps, so losing him for this game would be a big blow for sure. Now, as of the time of this recording, we don't really know much about this injury or when it happened, but I will say that groin injuries can sometimes linger on if not handled correctly, so hopefully this one that Milt is dealing with isn't one of those, and it's just a very short-term issue that doesn't cause him to miss Sunday's game, but we'll get a much better idea of that when the final injury report releases later today. And I'll make sure to cover that and more tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But now, getting on to the rest of the injury news, the Eagles also were once again missing 3 of their best players on the offensive side of the ball in Lane Johnson, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith on Thursday, so it certainly seemed like none of them were on track to play against the Bucs this week. But on Friday, the Eagles saw some huge positive developments as both Lane Johnson and AJ Brown had returned to practice, as they were seen with their helmets stretching with the team. So this is certainly a very positive sign, and all of a sudden, it seemed like there is a chance that they could maybe return on Sunday. Now, as of 1:59 p.m. on Friday, nothing is official and we don't know the official status for either of them, but again, we'll get a much better idea when the final injury report is released in a little bit here. Now, I could end up looking stupid depending on what happens when they do release the injury report, but I'm going to go ahead and predict that they're both going to be listed as either questionable or out for this game, so in that case, some of the other guys are going to have to step up. And one of those guys is tackle Fred Johnson, who was coming off a game against the Saints where he had to step in and play meaningful snaps for the first time in 3 or 4 years, and surprisingly, he performed really well, but star left tackle Jordan Mailata apparently wasn't surprised by that, as he said this about Johnson on Thursday.
Fred made the most out of his opportunity, man, and I'm not surprised by that. I really am not. He's taken a big step this year, especially during camp, and you saw how serious he took every day. He was showing up to work, he had a routine, and we hadn't seen that before with Fred. And when he came this year, you just knew that it was going to be his time. When his time was going to get called, he was going to show up, and he showed out.
Once again, shout out to Fred for stepping up big time last week, and he's going to need to do it again this week against a tough and aggressive Bucs defense, if he does end up having to play on Sunday. And then, moving on to some of the other guys who got to step up, we look at the receiver room, as of course, with most likely Devontae and possibly no AJ, the other guys are going to have to produce. Now, I've already talked a ton about Jahan Dotson this week, as he's going to be the #1 guy in that room in this game, so they certainly need a big performance from him, but they also need the other guys behind him to play well too. And one of those those guys is the rookie Johnny Wilson, who was one of the standouts early on in training camp before he then came back down to earth as the weeks went on, but he's certainly a guy with a very unique skill set as he's got a massive frame at 6'6", and he's already an amazing blocker, so hopefully he's able to continue that as well as step up in more of a pass catching role this week and just use that size to his advantage. And then the other guy who has to step up is the veteran Parris Campbell, who started the season out on the practice squad but will now have a very big opportunity to start for the Birds this week. And he's someone who we all know is capable of stepping up as well, as he's got great speed and he's made plenty of plays in this league before. Now, we saw a little glimpse of that last week against the Saints, and now it seems like he's ready to make even more plays this week. As on Thursday, he talked about his approach and readiness to take on a bigger role this week, and on top of that, he also had some great things to say about the rookie Johnny Wilson as well.
For myself personally, I always try to approach it the same way, even when they were here. You never know when your number's going to get called, so you don't ever want to be in this position and kind of be in panic mode. So from week one, I've always been preparing the same way as if I was in the game. So now that that moment is actually here, it's not any panic, and it's just what I'm used to.
What about Johnny? I know you've seen him at great length. Is he ready for this opportunity?
Oh yeah, 100%. Johnny, man, he's from day one, he's been a playmaker. I think we've seen it in OTAs, we've seen it in camp. Now he's going to get more opportunities, and I'm happy for him as he walks in. But I'm happy for him. He's more than ready, man. He puts the time in, he puts the effort in, so he's more than ready.
Glad to hear that both of these guys are ready for their big opportunities this week because the Eagles need them to step up. And Parris Campbell is someone who I specifically am rooting for because he talked about how obviously being cut was really, really hard for him. And he actually said that he didn't initially want to come back to the Eagles practice squad because he didn't feel that he was that kind of player. But after praying for a while and some events that happened, he determined that God wanted him in Philly, and it's for a reason. So as a believer, that definitely hit me, and I thought it was really cool to hear him say that. So hopefully Campbell is able to have a good game along with the rest of the Eagles receivers as well. And someone who seems poised to have a huge game is the defensive tackle Jalen Carter, as based on what has transpired over the past few weeks, it seems like going against this Bucs offensive line is an ideal matchup for Carter and a big opportunity for him to have a massive performance. And Carter also seems to see going up against Baker Mayfield as an opportunity to put up some big numbers, as he recently kind of called out a tendency of Baker's that could turn out to be a weakness in this game. And don't worry, we're going to get into that and so much more in just a minute, but real quick, I do want to say if you are enjoying this video and don't want to miss any other Eagles coverage or content just like this coming throughout the rest of this entire season, then make sure you subscribe and also really, really importantly, turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. I think that's a win-win for the both of us because not only do I get more people consistently watching these videos, but you don't miss any other Eagles coverage or content just like this. So again, subscribe, turn on notifications, and also drop a like. Let's see if we can get to 700 likes on this video. And now, with all that being said, let's get back into the video. So arguably the Buccaneers' biggest area of concern over the first few weeks of the season has been their ability to keep their quarterback Baker Mayfield on 2 feet, as through 3 games, Mayfield has been sacked 13 times, which puts the Bucs as the 3rd worst team in the NFL at protecting their quarterback. And last week was the worst of it all, as the Bucs allowed 7 sacks to the Broncos defense in a game that was not very pretty offensively. And while the offensive line was largely to blame, Baker Mayfield also had a huge hand in it, as there were some occasions where he held onto the ball a bit too long and ended up getting sacked as a result. And this is something that can sometimes be an advantage for Baker, as we've seen in the past his ability to extend plays and make something out of nothing, but it can also be a weakness, as sometimes he holds onto the ball too long and takes a sack. And defensive tackle Jalen Carter has taken note of that, as he kind of called out this weakness on Thursday, while also saying that this is something that could create more opportunities for the Eagles pass rush to get home.
It's a big opportunity, because what I see with the film, he's staying in the pocket a little bit longer than usually what other quarterbacks do, and he's holding the ball a little bit longer. Other quarterbacks usually get out like 2.6 seconds, and he's holding it a little bit longer, trying to scramble and extend plays, and I think that's a big opportunity for the line.
Carter is certainly right in saying that Baker holding onto the ball a little bit longer than other quarterbacks could be something that works to the Eagles pass rush's advantage. And all in all, it certainly seems like Carter and the defensive line could be in for another big day, as they're coming off a game where their defensive line bounced back from their early season struggles and looked dominant both against the run and rushing the passer, while again, the Bucs have struggled to stop opposing defenses from sacking the quarterback. And if things continue to trend the way they have for both teams, it seems like the Eagles could be in line for a very big game in terms of getting to the quarterback. But what do you guys think? Do you expect a big effort from Carter in the pass rush, or do you not? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. But now, sticking with somebody who has been a big part of the Eagles pass rush and defensive line so far this year, we switch our focus to Brandon Graham, who surprisingly, at age 36 and in his 15th year in the NFL, is off to a pretty good start. I mean, in these first 3 games, BG has made plays both stopping the run and getting pressure on the quarterback, and he's also surprisingly played a lot so far this year. I mean, coming into the season, I think he was expected to be used infrequently in a rotational role, but now 3 weeks in, due to his solid play along with the struggles of Bryce Huff, he's been on the field a lot so far, as he played nearly 50% of the snaps in week 1 and week 2, and just this past week, he played 62% of the snaps, which was the most of any Eagles edge rusher. Plus, BG is also ranked 14th out of 87 qualified edge defenders so far this season by PFF, so safe to say, this is far from a chill farewell tour for BG, as he has a huge role in this team, and so far, he's made the most of it. And it seems like his solid start could have possibly made him somewhat reconsider his decision to retire after this season, as Ruben Frank reported that Graham recently said, quote, "Honestly, I'm going to stay ready just for one more year, just in case if a situation popped up where it's like, okay, they need me. Either way, I'm going to be a part of whatever they're doing next year. As a player, who knows, but I might stay ready another year depending on how everything goes this year." So to me, that certainly does not sound like a guy who has fully made up his mind about retiring after this season. And obviously, I'd personally love to have BG back for another year if he did make that decision to return. And honestly, I mean, the Eagles could use it with the way that edge rusher position is looking right now. But regardless of that, Brandon Graham's retirement status will now all of a sudden be a situation to monitor throughout the rest of the year. But what do you guys think is going to happen? Do you think BG will end up hanging him up after all, like he had said earlier? Or do you think there's a chance he comes back next year? Again, let me know all your thoughts about that or anything else that I talked about in this video down in the comments. And also, while you're at it, make sure you subscribe, and again, really importantly, turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss any of the Eagles coverage or content I got coming on this channel throughout this entire season. So again, subscribe and turn on notifications, and also drop a like to show some support, because that really does help me out a ton. Again, let's see if we can get to 700 likes on this video. And also, if you want to watch another Eagles video going over some news from earlier in the week, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.